Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's a great pleasure and a great honour that Cynthia has asked me to be part of the Global Purpose Leaders and the delivery of this content to you that is really, in this particular case, is my individual story, peppered with some of the learnings that I've had and the growth that has brought me to where I am today. And just in briefly, I've been a self-described corporate rebel, having worked for over 18 years in the corporate space, more recently in a social enterprise. And the reason for that has been how old am I now? 46, nearly 47-year journey about discovering who I am. And that's why the whole concept of the collective individualism and each for equal, which is the theme for International Women's Day this year, really resonated with me. And I was very grateful to Cynthia to become part of this and share my story with you. I really hope that you can get a little bit of things that will help you in your journey and will give you some things to think through, recollect on. I'd like to just take you through some slides that I've put together and talk you through what it is that I want to share with you today, which is a lot around my own story and how that informs what I share with people that I deal with on a business level, as also those that I interact with and have in my network. So let me share my screen with you. Now, collective individualism, the way that I've put this together and what this means for me is about self-leadership. So as we well know, the theme being each for equal, an equal world is an enabled world. So individually, we're all responsible for our own thoughts and actions all day, every day. So we can actively choose to challenge stereotypes, fight biases, broaden our perspectives, improve situations, and celebrate women's achievements. This hopefully is something that resonates with each and every one of you, because this is the theme for International Women's Day 2020. So as I mentioned, I really wanted to share one individual's journey, and that is my journey. And what you see here is just a small snapshot of actually three components that I put together, which are my goals. And they are under the broader categories of experiences, growth, and contribution. And the contribution I'll share with you a little bit later in the story. But the reason that I wanted to share these up front is with the end in mind. What has helped me in my journey and got me to the point of writing these goals down was the fact that I wanted to no longer just continually chase my tail and just repeat the same activities, same anxieties, same relationships. I wanted to really understand what it was for me that was going to give me the growth, the experiences, and enable me to provide the contribution that I wanted to have in the world. So the goals that you see in front of you, they're not, as you can see, not, I suppose, standard goals, smart, measurable, achievable, results orientated, in the sense of a lot of people's goals talk to, I want a certain house, or I want a certain job, or I want a certain amount of money in my bank. I just didn't see those types of goals as serving me. And so therefore the goals that I've put down for myself are about the journey. And as it talks to, like I'm surrounded by positivity, love, abundance, and success, for example, in my experiences. Now that is how it can be today, if I choose it to be. And this is why I chose and created these goals for myself, because every single day I have the opportunity to lead myself and lead the opportunities in my life by focusing and having a vision and using these as the lens from which I see the world and the way that I interact with that world. So I would suggest the key theme here is that one of the biggest parts of self-leadership is reflecting and understanding what it is that you've learned so far, what has got you to where you are, and how do you continue to have more of what has been successful, and ensuring that the downs, the pain that we can go through at times, the lessons are our opportunities for growth. And as a result of that, getting really clear on what it is that we want to make sure that we continue to experience and how we grow and therefore how we contribute. So another part of my journey that I want to share with you that really helped me put everything really, I suppose, into perspective was how we can reboot our own mindset and how you can go from a breakdown through to a breakthrough. And this little chart that I have come across through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which talks about exponential growth, and that's part of one of the key focuses that I have, and has been a big part of my journey, which I'll go through in a little bit more detail. But in essence, what this is really showing you and talking about is one, we've got to at some stage let go of whatever doesn't fit with tomorrow's realities, where we want to go. This is the bit that we're talking about, where in reflection and in our learning of what has served us and what is no longer serving us, really gives us a roadmap and a clarity of letting go of what's not fitting with where we want to go in the future. So you review your accomplishments, you look at what the lessons that you've learned, and really identify what it is, as I said, that you want to do more of. So that again is about that first layer of self-leadership, understanding that we're ready to move forward, knowing what our strengths are and knowing what our opportunities for improvement are as well. Then what I did for myself was to stand back and also look at the emerging trends. And for me, I was really starting to notice how I was following this path of wanting to know more about exponential technologies and how technology is really moving at such a pace that we're almost on this brink of, are we going to grow our consciousness as humanity and a human species and a human race to be able to keep up with the technology? And then that made me really understand, okay, if that's where I want to go in the future, and that is where the future is heading as well from a trend and emerging perspective. And what is it that I can do, or that I've already got in my skill set, or that I want to embed in my skill set so that I can be on that curve, or hopefully in front of that curve. So really, that was about me understanding what's happening in the world now, doing a bit of research, standing back and scanning those trends. And it was really about engaging with different perspectives, ones that, hadn't normally come, or maybe that I was willing to at the time previously be open to. And this is why it really talks in this left-hand section about being in a zone of maximum confusion. And honestly, last year in particular was very much that, really a roller coaster ride of emotions, of self-doubt, of excitement for understanding, what was happening, and the learning that I was getting from researching the emerging trends and the disruptive technologies, because I really wanted to embrace it and engage with different perspectives to help open my mindset. But it does cause confusion because change isn't easy. The reality is that it can be quite messy up front, and confusing and disruptive in that middle. But what I have found is that it then becomes very beautiful because it just becomes part of us. It's part of who we are, and we operate at a different level as a result of that change. So embracing that, and for me, and where most of us are, is this area of embracing uncertainty and the discomfort of change. But the point being is, as we focus on what it is that we do want, understanding, in my case, what my North Star was, what my purpose, my mission, and the values that I wanted to demonstrate and be clear about living through, that would help me therefore identify the opportunities for 10 times in my thinking and the solutions that I was looking to implement from an impact perspective. Therefore, identifying what would help me break through, and the experiment side of things with regards to implementing those new learning and testing that theory, because a big part of rebooting my mindset and getting to that breakthrough for me has been not only about reading a lot of books and spending more time in the space of educating myself rather than dumbing myself down with, drinking or Netflix. Not to say I don't do or partake in any of that still. I do very much so. But I choose when I partake in that now, and the amount of time that I dedicate to my learning and growth and my self-leadership has expanded. And as a result of that, I am therefore being able to become clearer and implement change a lot quicker because I'm experimenting with those new learnings and testing those theories, going out, for example, and networking a lot more, and developing those new mindsets. Some other things that I wanted to share with you, again, that I have come across through my self-leadership journey and my development of my own purpose and understanding of what's happening in the world and the trends, which I can point to, again, this being in the realm of the UN Sustainable Development Goals as that first marker, which talks to the fact that technology isn't the only thing that is exponentially changing. When we really reflect on it and what you can see here with key socio-economic and earth system trends, it really started moving in this exponential curve, as you can see it, around 1950, which is what's marked here with this little red line, from our population, primary energy use, our water use, international tourism, tropical forest loss, shrimp aquaculture, ocean acidification, methane in our environment. These are all, as you can see, exponentially growing. So it's not just technology. We are needing to consider what is it that we can do to disrupt, or are we willing to continue to just be part of what is going to be disrupted? Because the scale and speed of the changes that we're going through right now are happening at a real exponential pace. And for humans, businesses, activities, it's all got consequence. And I understand and feel that this can be quite overwhelming at times. And having had these conversations with myself in the first instance, with other people that I start to network with, and also presenting this material to other individuals, it can be, as I said, overwhelming, but it's not supposed to be. Just like any change, again, I bring it back to the fact that when something first comes into your field of awareness, it can be disruptive, and it can therefore cause confusion, and it can get really messy. But the more that you then continue to open your awareness to being challenged in that way, to research more, to read more, the more opportunity you've got to reconcile that information, to start to understand how can you be part of that, rather than try to resist it, or try to rather than putting it into the too hard basket. Because we are either going to be part of the disruption, or we are going to be disrupted. So, new growth story. This was something that I'd love to share with you. Some of you guys may have come across this already, some of you may have not. And again, please just keep an open mind. I understand that if this is completely new to you, that it will be challenging for you to get your head around. And I ask again that you just try to find the small parts of what resonates with you, and then consider how that may fit into your story, or whether or not it resonates enough with you to research it more and find out for yourself, and start to fact check, and start to ask more questions, because it's with asking more questions that I find has been one of the key learnings in my self-leadership and my self-growth. So, a new growth story, going for breakthrough for me. So, as I mentioned, exponential changes and challenges are happening in our world right now. It's no longer sufficient for humanity even, let alone, I feel, for us as individuals to just go along and do the business as usual, nor is it change as usual, because change as usual can be quite slow. As humans, we, go through education, for the first 17 years of our life, and then some of us go on to university and do another 4 or 5 years, and that's pretty much where our formal education can sometimes stop, unless you're in a professional industry, or for me, it's been a personal growth journey. And I think that one of the key aspects, as far as that change as usual is concerned, which no longer sits well with me, and I agree with Peter's laws and where this comes from, this graph about exponential change too, is that it's going to take too long for me to change the way that I'm used to changing, and I want to break through and expand my growth and really get that exponential type of change, which is 10 times thinking. Yes, there is this possibility of breakdown, and that's where we talk about the fact that it can become overwhelming, and that from a business perspective, for example, some businesses get to that precipice where they're chasing so quickly that growth and that exponential change that they go over the edge. So it is a balance, and it is about understanding and taking stock of where we are, what it is that we can do now for short-term goals, those medium-term goals, and those long-term goals, and being realistic about those. Really, being open to going, wow, that didn't quite work, but that's okay. It's judgment of others is often, and more so from my perspective, a judgment of self. And whenever I look to question why I'm judging somebody else, I'll often come up with the question, what's true in that about me? Because that's where I feel a lot of judgment comes from, in comparing, in looking at somebody else and going, wow, they're a bit arrogant, or gosh, they love themselves a bit, or whatever it is, like that judgment is often a reflection of how we treat ourselves. And that's what I became very clear on for me personally in this self-leadership journey, is turning that lens on myself and starting to go, oh, okay, wow, where did that come from? And really asking that question. But I think I digress a little in the storytelling here, because part of also what I want to bring that back to is that the reason that a lot of I'm sharing with you is just the way that I now show up is because of a gentleman by the name of Peter Diamandis, and some of the laws that he has, Peter's laws versus Moore's laws, which you may have heard of, because Peter's laws are for me a lot more self-leadership, and enabling the individual that then becomes the collective. So one of the ones that really, really resonated with me early was, when in doubt, think yourself, as in what matters to you, because there's a lot of people out there with opinions, there's a lot of information out there, which again comes back to that potential for overwhelm and that potential for a breakdown. So when in doubt, think what matters to you. Come back to that self, because there will always be others who have opinions about the way you should be doing things, or why they think that you shouldn't be doing something, or why it's a crazy idea, or so many different reasons. And another one of Peter's laws, which I love, is the best way to predict the future is to create it yourself. Because there isn't a set future, you get to choose. That's the reality of it. And by choice, I not only mean choice in how you show up in the world, or, whether or not you choose to go down a path of becoming a self-made entrepreneur, or a job, or a career, or the volunteering, just being there for your family even. The fact is that you get to choose. So the choices that you make create your future. And another one that I'd share with you is that if you think it's impossible, then it is for you. It's not necessarily saying that it is impossible full stop, because as we're seeing, and another book that I would highly recommend is Mapping Cloud 9, and Stephen Kotler, who talks about the fact that the human condition, as I'll call it, has improved also exponentially, and in ways that we never expected was possible. And it's only through individuals that choose not to be contained or conditioned by culture, by somebody else's thoughts and opinions, by what's written in text or education pieces or anything like that. They have chosen to go, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to see whether or not I can change and how much I can change and what do I want to change. So I ask you, what is your appetite for change? Because if it's at that accelerated growth, you've got the opportunity to make a real impact in the world, and it starts with self. So I want to circle back to the start of the discussion and my sharing with you, and again, this is the contribution and the goals that I set for myself under this lens called contribution. And with myself, that has been about the self-leadership into a social enterprise, and that social enterprise has a holistic approach to employee well-being. So here we come back full circle to another one of my goal settings that I started with, the other being growth and experiences. This was the contribution goals that I set for myself. And because I got clear on those goals, I was able to show up through those lenses every day. And as a result of that, I have developed a social enterprise that I'm continuing to grow, and that social enterprise has a holistic approach to employee well-being. And because my belief is that we can reshape the future of work, build resilience, increase innovation, collaboration, and trust back into the workforce. So it's really a vision of creating and educating, co-creating, I would say actually. It's about a vision of educating and co-creating to evolve humanity back into the workforce. As I mentioned, my journey being now a self-described corporate rebel, I want to go back into those spaces and start to make a change so that we can each lead self and then lead others and then contribute and be part of the solution and the systemic changes that we need in this world to really have the impact and be the impact and be the change that we want to see in the world. So I'd like to leave you with this. Collectively, each one of us can help create a gender equal world. That is the desire and the theme and the focus for International Women's Day. So how about each and every one of you reflect on your own experiences, the good and the bad. Don't sort of really want to put it up there as a good versus bad. I probably would have preferred to talk to the fact that there is really no good or bad. It's just how you see it. And it's about coming from your comfort zone into a place of learning and understanding that your learning does have the opportunity for not only linear growth but exponential growth when you have control of how you view the world and those experiences. And that again comes down to choice. So what are your experiences? Getting those down on paper, having a look at your ups, your downs. What are the high points that you've been through to date? What are some of the lows? What do you feel are your wins, your losses, because the reality is that each of those, whatever your experiences, however you perceive those experiences, I'm sure you could come up with 3 things that you've learned and that therefore that you've grown. And therefore, I think you'll be able to come up with 3 things that you have learned and that therefore have contributed to your growth, which I hope you will then ask yourself, who did you become? Who are you now? How are you showing up in the world? Because it is that self-leadership that help you have the most impact and the most growth. Because if you can control your choices, you can understand what it is that's serving you, then through that self-leadership that you will be able to be on the path of accelerating your own growth and the impact that you will have in the world. That has certainly been my belief, my personal experience, and my journey to date. And I can wholeheartedly say I'm very, very grateful for the experiences in my world that I've had to date, good, bad, or otherwise. And I thank you so much for being part of me sharing my story with you today on International Women's Day. And I look forward to seeing you having the impact that you want to in the world, starting with yourself. Thank you.
Hello all, my name is Chansa Arhunmwunde. Happy International Women's Day to you all. What a great honor and privilege to be speaking to you today on this great Global Purpose Leaders platform. I salute the founders for this amazing initiative and don't take the opportunity lightly. Thank you again. We have all come together to celebrate the woman. What an amazing time to be alive. The theme for this year's International Women's Day, Each for Equal, to me, represents why we have indeed come this far. It has been collective action and shared responsibility by women for women to get to where we are. We still have work to do though, and that is why I feel this year's theme is so apt. I absolutely love being a woman. I believe that we harness a power that is undeniably a force to reckon with, especially when we come together. This theme for me reminds me that as women, when we realize that we are all part of something bigger than us individually, we will make greater strides in our quest for equality. Equality in governments, in boardrooms, in wealth procurement, in management positions, to name a few. Professionally, I am a licensed financial advisor and investment consultant. I have been in the financial industry for a little over 5 years, and I absolutely love what I do. I love to educate, equip, and empower individuals to go from living an average life to one of financial abundance by financial literacy. I am passionate about financial literacy because it literally changed my life. That is why I recently founded the Personal Finance Masterclass with Chansa A. I have found that many individuals would love to be better financially, but just don't know what to do, let alone where to start. That is where I come in. But before entering into the wonderful world of finance, I always wanted to be a medical doctor, and I actually have an undergraduate degree in biochemistry, believe it or not. It all started when, after graduating, I was having challenges securing a job in the science field. So I thought to apply for any odd job in the meantime to get me by while I was looking for that science job that I worked so hard in university to one day have. Man plans and God laughs. Because this get me by job is what God used to show me what He created me for. My first few months in the financial industry, I quickly realized my passion to help solve people's financial challenges and my purpose to educate them to not find themselves in the same situations and ultimately grow from living an average life to one of financial abundance. There is a liberating beauty and undescribable satisfaction in finding your purpose, acknowledging acknowledging it, working on it, and walking in that truth. When passion meets purpose, explosive things happen. When it comes to each for equal, in my line of work, it is not that there is not enough women in the field. There can be more though, that's for sure. But I think the bigger challenge is that I find that there are not enough men that are willing and open to have a female advise them on finances. Case in point is my last personal finance masterclass. 100 people registered, only 6 of those were men. This narrative has got to change. As we are each for equal, I look forward to equal opportunities where it comes to serving both male and females. Women's equality can't wait. It's going to take everyone to think and be inclusive all the time, everywhere, each for equal. Woman, I leave you with this. No matter what you do in life, no matter where you are, no matter what anybody tells you, you can get to the top of your mountain, and more importantly, you can help another woman get on top of her mountain too. I am rooting for you. The future is female. It has been a great pleasure and honor to have spoken to you all today. Thank you once again to the wonderful organizers, and thank you to you too for taking the time out to listen. Have a blessed day. Each for equal.